What's up, everyone, and welcome to the 20th episode of the Naus cEDH podcast. Naus on a budget. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Adam, better known as Poppyphobia.
What's up, everybody?
And a special guest and friend of the show, Timmy T1000 from cEDH Budget Brews.
Oh, I'm supposed to talk here. Hi!
But before we get started, I think we have some triggers to resolve in our upkeep.
Awesome. Yep. Thank you, Kian. So to start with, we're going to shout out all of our high-tier patrons. Thank you to Doot, Usable Object, Senator Tom, Sora Flower, Scorish, Jeff Bezos, Geos Justin, and Domino. The support from all of our patrons has been wonderful, and if you'd like to support us as well, you can at patreon.com/sadnos. By the time that this episode comes out, I believe that Kevin, Kian, and I will all be enjoying steak sandwiches at Oktoberfest in Philly. We'll be out there filming vlog content along with meeting and collaborating with many different content creators while there. So make sure that you stick around for all that wonderful content when we return, as well as an overhaul to our Patreon to support the people that support us. And I think it's time for our guest, Timmy, to talk about what he's got going on.
Hi, I'm Tim, a.k.a. Timmy T1000 around the interwebs. People might have heard about me before, maybe not. I run cEDH Budget Brews, which is a brewing Discord kind of geared towards entry level or new player like cEDH, or people kind of wanting to get into it and not quite ready to make the jump. I have a Twitch, same name. I have a YouTube, same name. And what else would you like to know about current stuff?
Well, just like, you got your YouTube, you got your Twitch. Do you got any tournaments or things that you got going on? I know that you've been involved in budget tournaments before.
I do. So next weekend, actually the same weekend as on the Saturday of Oktoberfest, that is, I believe, the 19th of November. I am going to be streaming all day on the Budget Brews Twitch channel, our first webcams CBB 100. So we're doing a $100 budget webcam tournament. It's free entry. And we are at our 64-player cap for the first one. We may expand in the future. We'll have deck list the whole 9 yards. We'll be streaming all day. And it's on webcam. So kind of excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So we got a bunch of stuff to kind of go through today. Bunch of stuff to talk to with Timmy about budget and specifically cEDH budget and all the things that he's involved with in the community. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody to smash that like button and hit subscribe. And if you're listening on a podcast platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure that you leave us a review and a rating, as it helps us to reach new audiences. And with that, I think we're going to move on to our main phase. So for today's topic, we are joined by Timmy T1000 of cEDH Budget Brews to discuss his content, as well as the diversity and challenges of budget brewing in cEDH, and address the influx of new players to our format and what that means for growth going forward. So to start this whole podcast episode out, this whole conversation, I think we want to ask you, Timmy, the question about why budget cEDH. What drove you to budget cEDH, and why do you enjoy it so much?
So really what it is I'm a big, you guys, I get messages from you guys pretty regularly about mana bases and help improving your deck's mana bases. So I was a big mana base guy. So way back. So before the Nexus, back when PlayEDH had 3 people on it, me and Scott and this other guy who doesn't really come around much, we're gonna start a podcast called The Mana Bond, where all we were gonna talk about was mana bases, but it was too dry of a topic for anything past half an episode.
Yeah.
And so that kind of fell apart. And then, but part of that was kind of helping people who are in non-proxy metas or in non-proxy environments still be able to interact on a relatively high level cheaper. The main thing with budget, as far as cEDH is concerned, it's really kind of a misnomer, because mostly what I do is really neither budget and is really not cEDH. Because a lot of what I brew are like $500 and $750 decks, which obviously are not cheap. But since they're missing a lot of the like reserve list cards and super high end stuff, they're really technically not cEDH. It's more of just a way to kind of help direct new players and make cEDH a little more approachable, because the budgetized cEDH decks tend to be a little more linear, a little less layered, and the pacing tends to be a little bit slower, because you'll start missing tutors, you'll start missing things like dockside, you know, all the free interaction, you're missing all the
fast
most
mana
of the
and stuff.
a lot of the mana positive rocks, like you may only be running a couple. So it tends to kind of, especially for play groups like transitioning from casual into cEDH, into the power level of cEDH, it makes the decks a lot more approachable. And also it being like, if you look at any of my $500 lists on my website, cEDH BudgetBrews.club, if you've been playing standard or modern for like the last couple of years, you probably have a pretty significant portion of the cards in the deck. Like, you know, you got the M10 Dominaria lands, or the Commander Legends Battle Bond and / Battle Bond lands. You might have shock lands from one of the 15 returns to Ravnica. We've had like a lot of that kind of stuff. You know, you probably got Arcane Signets running around.
Yeah.
You know, so what happens is like when you look at a lot of those lists, if you have a decent card pool, you find out that like out of a $500 deck, you probably got like 300 of it just sitting around not being used. And then sure, you probably have to buy like, you know, a Tainted Pact and a couple of fetch lands, or maybe a Mox Opal or a Mana Vault or something, just to kind of help round it out.
What are some examples of like? Sorry to cut you off, but what are some examples of like some like $400 to $500 decks that you think would do well, like in like a general cEDH metagame, I guess?
So I kind of have a rule of like a 2x. So I advocate for not playing a deck against decks that are more than double its budget. Just as like a general rule. So like Godo or like Sylvala would probably be okay. Like to play against like decks that are maybe missing like some of the reserve list cards. You know what I'm saying? Like if I wouldn't take a $500 deck and then go play it on the subreddit, or go play it on the Nexus, or go play it on any proxy environment. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't advocate for that. So kind of where the budget decks kind of come in are more in the like when they start missing some of the bells and whistles, kind of like those LGS high power kind of mixed metas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
What are some challenges that come with being a budget content creator? I know that most of the cEDH people are like no budget whatsoever. We just want to play like the best decks, and we're going to showcase the best decks. What is a challenge for you as a budget creator? How do you get people interested in like brewing on a budget?
So actually it's the budget part isn't really the problem. It's to take it more seriously is the issue for me. So a lot of budget players, they just like to kind of brew their wild, zany kind of Timmy decks, right?
Some like Mimi deck or something.
Yeah. Like a lot, like whatever new. I mean, it's just take like whatever cEDH players do naturally and then amplify it, because it's more of like more casual player focused, more kind of newer player focused, and then you kind of amp up like the kind of like the Timmy Johnny factor to it, the Mimi factor. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of what happens is you get a lot of like really unrefined decks. And then like a lot of times I'll like play in like learning pods with people kind of once in a while. And they'll see like the decks that I've built, or the decks that me and like some of the deck helpers or the people who have kind of been taught how to play before them. And then they realize the difference. A lot of what it is really just helping get players to learn how to like interact and like build on, like cast on curve, not play a bunch of ETB tap lands into 3-mana rocks and have 4, you know, and playing cancel in their deck. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, For example, there are 16 blue 1 counter spells that have upside that counter any spell.
Really?
16.
Yeah.
Yeah. 16.
So like
There's,
when on the terms of like budget, you're kind of just trying to provide as much value as possible for the cards that you can.
Yeah. It's kind of helping teach players how to like build, because you can build anything with a competitive mindset. You can build a $50, $100, $200 deck with a competitive mindset.
Right.
So it's about like learning your meta, learning how to interact, learning your timing, learning efficient ways to do things.
Yep.
And just not everybody has like infinite amounts of money, and not everybody can proxy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that it also teaches players a very important like play pattern to this format, which is mana efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna do nothing for like 2 turns and then play this 4 mana rock. Like that's not like
Right.
You want to be using your mana either proactively or reactively. So
Yeah.
I think it's
Right. Well, and the other thing is it helps teach players how to like. I mean, a lot of what I do like is helping people manage money, build collections effectively. Like really, that's more of what I do than like. Honestly, the budget thing is just kind of a like the little spider's nest to catch the fly. You know what I mean? Like it's just to kind of lure them in. Really.
Yeah.
you got to go travel down in the spider's den for
for
the real shit.
But it's really more of like teaching players who are novice how to be stronger players.
I got you.
You know?
No, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense, and I think like Kian kind of brought up a good point where he's saying
Yeah.
that like when you look at play patterns, right? Like even though you're on a budget, you can kind of become a better player because of that. Specifically, like I feel like a lot of players, like when you look at like these top level events or tournaments or things like that, like you're so used to these play patterns of like, oh, I can just dump 10 mana rocks on the table and my deck's gonna do something. Whereas like when you're restricted, you don't have the same type of thing. So like the type of mulligans you keep, the type of hands that you're playing, the type of spells that you're casting need to impact the game in a significant way. And you need to build your deck accordingly. So like I feel like there's a lot of like play advantage to like starting off at a point like that, or even being restricted to certain types of decks or play patterns based on that.
It can be. Well, and the meta is different. Down like when you start playing in those types of meta, it like teaches you how to like learn metas better, how to deck build better, because you're kind of forced to assess a card. You're forced to give every card in your deck a cost benefit analysis. You don't just get to slap every card in just because, I mean, people are buying these cards. Not everybody can go out and buy a Tabernacle.
Yeah, and I think I've watched a lot of your videos, and like some of my favorite ones are like like one of my favorite videos I can remember is when you guys did the budget tournament, and it was like you and Hokie and another friend of yours. You guys did the budget tournament. You talked about your decks at the end of the tournament, and like the decks are similar to what we see at the top end of like our tournaments, but they're very different in like the play patterns and styles. Like Cody and Rocco are good decks in budget events, but also they like play completely different to the
right.
The
Well,
non-budget variant.
And part of that is kind of like watching reprints and stuff as well. Yeah. Well, that was the thing, and the other thing is you have to kind of like a budget meta, like if you want to call it a thing, is going to be much more board centric, a lot more creatures, because there's a higher mix of like mid power and high power commanders in that, because I mean, you can play a cEDH commander on a budget sometimes. Not all of them port, but the ones that do, like, they're going to be very refined, but you still have to play against the Timmy Dino deck. And you have to know how to interact with that and still be able to, like, execute your plan. Because you can't always just go under them. Like,
No, like Zakama's going to do some work, so you got to be prepared for it.
Yeah, fucking Golta, or like the one that won the budget con that me, Hokie, and Big Richie played at was Kiri, the mono blue dragon from Kamigawa.
Oh,
The one
I
that-
do know. Yeah.
The one when it dies, it like either mills or it returns 2 instants and sorceries or something.
Yeah, it has
Yeah.
the LTB trigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was what won, but it was a Dirtly Dino deck. Like, it was definitely a casual deck, and he played it well. Like, I'm not trying to shit on the dude, because he did play it very well, but it was a casual deck, and it got there because the game got stalled out till late, and then the big bombs just took over, and people couldn't answer the bombs.
When the game, it's similar to like the terminology we're using is like budget and budgetless, but they're still similar. But it's like very similar to budgetless CDH, where when the game goes long, the best casual deck wins, right?
Yep.
So like
it does.
I can definitely see like that being the case.
Yeah, and it does kind of repeat itself like that.
Yeah. Well, with the content that you produce, we talked about how it's like geared towards newer players specifically. Do you feel like you have some type of responsibility because of your channel and the content that you make towards like how these new players experience the format? Because I think a big thing that we've discussed before is that like there's some type of onus as a content creator to introduce people to the format or welcome them to CDH. And when you do content that's specifically geared towards like newer players or people getting into it for the first time, I feel like there's got to be a lot of weight there on making sure that they stick around or enjoy it.
So part of the reason why I started doing the budget thing was, all right, so you ready for the hot take moment here a little bit?
Yeah, throw it out there.
The way the online CEH community treats new players is abysmal at best. At best. Go onto the Reddit, see anybody post a casual deck that they want to try to push as hard as it can, or they want to try to make CDH and it's not playing dual lands, like they fucking get shredded. All right? It's come a long way, but it's still pretty bad. It used to be it used to be way worse. Or like if that same type of question gets asked in a Discord. Like, we've all seen it happen. Probably you experienced it when you first started getting into it, in a CEH. Like, you just
play Blue Farm, bro.
Right, and then they link the fucking DDB and 15 people just repeat it. Printer go brrr, like whatever ignorant ass shit people say this week, right?
This TBH.
Yeah.
True.
So I wanted to start doing several things. Part of that was to kind of help redirect that conversation because if people see the word budget in front of stuff, like that naturally attracts new players. But then also start helping work on terminology. Like I did a video a while back about like the difference between streamlining and optimizing, and how you can streamline any strategy, but you can't. But when you optimize, certain things get pushed out. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like if you're a truck, like the example I used was if you're a trucking company, you can streamline your process, but if it's blatantly apparent that you really should just be using rail, but you're a trucking company, like you don't want to switch to rail even though it's more optimal. And that's kind of like and I had a picture of Thrasios versus like Gretchen, the Commander Gretchen.
Yeah.
Twitch Willow, I think's her name, or Croxa versus Lazolda. In the thumbnail.
Sure, yeah.
Both of those two commanders are both Rakdos and Simic. They have similar abilities, but one is mostly more optimized than the other, right? And then I wrote like an article series about how to choose your own first CH deck, and kind of I cover proxy, non-proxy, where to play, how to get, and and all these different things. And the idea was to start kind of directing the public discourse to kind of help improve that experience for people.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely experienced that in our own right. I think our first episode was kind of dedicated to that. Wouldn't you say, Kian, about like our experiences as new players getting in the format, talking about
I love that episode.
Yeah,
Discord specifically.
Yeah, we're like disdain for like deck specific discords and things like that. And there's like where we feel we've been like where we feel frustrated, and then like the things that we're happy about with the format as well. But like I can say that that's definitely like a world that exists, right? And like we're guilty of it too. Now that we are in franchise players, of being very dismissive of new people's ideas, and I think that that's like a problem. It's a problem, but it's also like it's really hard to help. So
when you see what someone's doing and you're like, okay, this is cool, but this is better, you know, and it's
So-
hard to put that like in a way that they understand.
So that's part of my mission with Budget Brews is to have some of that stuff, like to start helping like standardize some of that onboarding a little bit.
Mhm.
The other thing is maybe I was a little harsh when I said it was, well, it is abysmal, but a lot of that abysmalness really just comes from burnout. Like if you get asked the same 15 questions, you have to have the same, like every new person who is transitioning from like casual, mid power, high power, whatever, non cEDH to cEDH, like in that power level spectrum, they get resistant to any type of like they like you get like almost over and over and over and over and over again. They resist like that onboarding, and the onboarding is not very smooth, but they want to brew their own deck. They want to brew it their own way. They want to win because they want to blah, blah, blah. And they don't want to be told that something is less optimal.
Doesn't work.
Right. But when you have and so they die on the hill, like they've only had this fight once. You've had this fight 30 times. Like at what point do you just get tired of having that fight?
Yeah, that's definitely like that's such a funny way to. It's funny to hear like someone else say it because like we
say it literally all the time.
Yeah, we
in our
talk about it
friend
all
group.
the time. Yeah, because like something that we do that I think that you're like also really, really well known for is cultivating like a local community. So not only do you have like this online presence where people reach out for advice or help or ask the same questions over and over again, but then when you go to your locals or your LGS or whatever and you're meeting new players for the first time, you're doing the same thing but in person. But in person it's so much easier because you're not communicating over text files on
Discord.
the internet. Yeah.
Well, and it's not. It hasn't scaled. Like,
Yeah.
like when I see one guy in an LGS, like one, we probably need a fort so everybody's a little more forgiving of his jank. Two, it's usually only like one or two people at a time. Like it's not like it's not like a constant flow of kind of like how it is in online.
Yeah.
And three, like that person to person interaction, because I mean, to be at the end of the day, I do a lot of community. Like I started the Nexus. I'm like the founder, even though I've been gone for a while. Like I got kind of burnt out and left about almost 2 years now. But like the first 3 years of his existence, like I did it. Like, so when it comes to like organizing, like a lot of the foundation for this, like I was the first person to start putting round timers in games. Like stuff like that. Like just kind of, so I do a lot of like community building. Oh, that was a huge fight. Everybody was, it was blasphemy to put a round timer on
in a commander game.
in a commander game. I'm like, dude, it's a tournament. Like,
It's gotta end. It's gotta end.
it's gotta end.
Can you
Like-
imagine if there's no round timers in today's tournaments, dude? They already go. The last tournament was like Mox Masters. I think it was a 12-hour long tournament, and that was online where everybody can just play games immediately. There's no like yeah. and
Waiting
there's
for
no-
everybody to get seated, get
Yeah.
that person back from taking a shit. Yeah.
90 minutes is what I wanted to go with. And it was
90.
like,
You're giving the
90.
Stacks deck a chance here. We don't do that. Stop. Bad.
I mean, again, we were beta. I was the beta. I beta tested Spell Table, like when it was still like privately owned by like I know the guy who made Spell Table. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. Like just a lot of the basic infrastructure that we now take for granted. Like was kind of trailblazed via that community building.
So
So-
Timmy crawled so we could walk, Kian.
I guess I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I mean that is what I did.
it is
So
what it is.
I'm gonna post some questions that I ask people all the time. Oh God, that did not format well. I don't like that chat. So here's a couple of quick questions I ask people, like when they're new and they want to push that deck as far as they can.
Yeah.
So whenever it comes to, and this is to help them give like an honest assessment, is like, what does the proposed commander or strategy do better than other established commanders or strategies in a given color or archetype? 2, is the thing it does worth usurping current or existing strategies or commanders. Does the proposed commander or strategy attack a certain meta in a way that is worth exploiting? 4. Is the proposed commander or strategy does the proposed commander or strategy fulfill an underrepresented role worth exploring? 5. Is there an option that is grossly or obviously more optimal? And if so, is there merit to be playing the suboptimal strategy due to some reason that was not previously stated? 6. Is the commander or strategy powerful enough to keep pace or disrupt established meta decks? If so, how? So that's a lot of like heavy questions to ask a new person. But what they're really trying to do is do something that a very seasoned and experienced player like wants to do.
Well, those are questions too that like a serious or experienced player would know, like almost immediately. So for a newer player, asking those questions really makes them think on a way different axis than what they're probably used to. Yeah. Especially when they bring like their favorite, commander, and they're like, I want to bring this to CDH. You're like, okay, before you go and start showing this list to people or whatever, ask yourself these questions first, because otherwise you're going to get bombarded with, why would you play this when you could play this? And
it makes them actually like think about their card choices, because I feel like some people like just throw crap together because it's a pet card that they use in casual.
Well, they're winning with it at their LGS, and their play group is probably like, you're playing CDH. Like the amount of people, like if I play like $100 Tropical Malcolm list, $100, all right, like one Benjamin Franklin for the whole deck, and I take it to like an LGS and I win 3 games in a row, I'm automatically playing CEDH. I'm like, bruh, I got Dorks and I got Soul Ring and Simian Spirit Guide and Rite of Flame. Like it's not a CEDH deck.
Sounds like
all
CEDH
you need is
me.
Glinthorn and Malcolm, baby. That's all you need.
Yes. I'm not saying it's not a good deck. I'm not just saying it's not CEDH. You've got Force of Will, you've got Mana Crypt, and you're bitching at me?
Yeah, no, I hear you 100%.
Like, but what these questions do is they give they stop people from being like printer go bruh, DDB, TBH, haha, and they start like an actual dialogue.
Well, and then you have a response to those questions when you do get hit with those, because if you can answer those questions correct, or like if you have any type of an answer for those questions, I would respect your choices as a deck builder,
because you put forethought into it.
Yeah, because like that's what I normally say is like when someone will come to me and they'll be like, I want to play this list, and I'll be like, okay, because like we for Naus, we get a lot of new players too, because a lot of our content attracts players that aren't normally thinking about CDH, because it's a podcast that does that, because people have extra free time and they check it out when they're curious, and so like we'll have players come in and they'll be like, hey, I want to get into CDH, this is what I want to bring, and it'll be like some Sidar partner deck. And I'll be like, why are you playing that when you could play this? And they'll just be like, well, because I thought this is what CDH is. You know what I mean? And they'll give us an answer like that, and then we'll start throwing out suggestions or whatever. But then if someone can come and say, well, because I want to do this specific thing, and I think this deck will do it better than anything else. And I'm like, oh, okay, I might not agree with you, but you got reasoning, so run it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, like you've answered these questions. Like, I'm probably going to give you shit about it after 3 games, but I'm not going to tell you not to go play in your own play group with it.
Yeah,
like and another thing these questions do, I think you already said it, Timmy, though, it creates dialogue between the person saying or producing the deck list and the person reviewing the deck list, because I know that's a major issue in like Discords. People won't actually like open a conversation. It'll just be post deck list. Why are you running this? Because XYZ, card bad, haha, play blue farm, or whatever generic Stonewall response. But with this, it creates that open dialogue. So,
well, so I just posted I have an archive for my 3-part articles for like picking your own CH deck, choosing your first CH deck. The questions are in the first part, along with a bunch of other stuff. And
I mean, I'm gonna be real with you. I can't read, so.
He's fucking.
I mean, okay, that's fine. You don't have to read. I got videos.
I'm joking.
So usually what happens is I hit them with the questions, Then I hit them with the streamlined versus optimized video. And then I hit them with the articles. And then I asked them, can you please consume these things and come back with answers? And then when you can, I am more than happy to like further the dialogue. Because I know from like running a play group and basically having to keep the jank out, like the unacceptable jank. I mean, there's obviously cEDH jank that we, that passes that bar. And then doing the new player stuff, like you kind of just develop a way to kind of help smooth out that onboarding a little bit.
I like how you tell people to invest in staples. I think that's a really good decision.
It is, because it doesn't matter what. So that's one of the big things is like, it doesn't matter what deck you play. Like if you play Jund in every format, play Jund, because those spendy Jund cards you buy will go in every Jund deck you play. Like,
yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're playing Corvold or if you decide to play Prosh. Not that Prosh is great, but when you decide Prosh, like if you're dead set on Prosh and you figure out that Prosh is crap, well, like I did when I played Prosh, and that Corvold's better, now you got a bunch of shit for Corvold.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that like I think is like very underrated. Is just like invest in the cards that your deck plays, because you'll take that with you for every other deck that you play. You know, like one thing that I've really done, like on the terms of budget, is I've converted my entire collection to one copy of every staple, because I can then build any deck that I want in paper, right?
Right.
And I don't need to have I don't need anything else, because I own one copy of every card and I can make any deck I want. And it's because I invested in those staples, and they're universal, because that's how our format works. Oddly enough, is like every staples used in, and there's like a subset of cards that are just used in every list.
Well, I mean, no matter what format you play, if you own an Underground Sea and that card is legal in that format, you're probably gonna play it if you have it.
Yeah.
As an example.
This is true. I mean, yeah. We can talk ad nauseum about how to purchase staples and what staples to buy and which will be most applicable. But so now that we've like kind of established like how newer players get in the formats, like how do they enter their first tournament, or like a budget tournament that you hold online?
So this is only our first one that we've held online. A lot of times the budget tournaments tend to be like localized. So the budget tournament that I played in with Big Richie and Hokey. Yeah. I don't know why I was drawing a blank. I kept wanting to call him by his real name is actually what it was. It was put on by a shop called Jesters outside of Cincinnati. In fact, the two of the TOs from that budget con are actually helping us to the CBB 100. They just haven't done. I've done webcam. They've done tournament. Kind of put it all together. Yeah, great guys. And they. But just like even if you're just getting on like a webcam, just any webcam tournament, or if you're getting in a local tournament, part of the best thing to do for playing perspective is to go and familiarize yourself with what everybody plays with, because especially if you're playing with paper decks, even if you're playing with proxies, because I'm gonna be honest, people don't like cutting up proxies, and they don't like waiting 4 weeks for NPC to ship it from China. Like, so people tend to play the same type of stuff over and over and over again. They might drift over to this Esper guy or this Esper person or this Grixis commander or that Grixis commander or this Selesnya, but at the end of the day, like, they're kind of going to stay in that wheelhouse, right? So if you go to a shop and you just play some pickup games like that where there's a tournament coming up, you'll find out kind of what their meta is. You know what I mean? You'll know that there's 3 Veyron decks, there's 2 JVPs, there's a Zakama, and then there's that one asshole with Gulta who just wants to kill everybody with a 12/12 Dino, right?
Yeah.
And then you can also kind of get for references. As far as running the tournament, it's actually pretty, like, the hardest part is really just doing the prep work for the decks. Like, you have to approve all the decks beforehand, and then you have to lock them in at a certain date, and then nobody can change their decks. So that can be a little bit of a challenge. And then just making sure, because again, these are a lot of new players, making sure everybody's got like a reasonable webcam setup. Like, we had to decline a guy who was trying to get his setup up par, and it just like was not happening. Like, was not. I think he finally got it on the fifth try, but yeah, like, because people, not everybody has a webcam, and then they can't afford a webcam, and it's like you can't really like tell them no, but like you also being like, well, it's not.
This is a webcam tournament, bro. Come on, you need a
Well,
webcam.
Well, no, people will use their phones as webcams. Like, if they don't
yeah.
play online a lot. But not everybody's phone's, 12 megapixel or whatever. I don't know what megapixel. I'm old. You see, 12 megapixel used to be like the thing.
I don't know. I think people's phones do like 4K now. So like,
Yeah, whatever it is. Not everybody's got one of those. Like,
Yeah.
some people are still rocking like, I know a dude who's rocking an iPhone 6. Like, and not even like the S or the Plus, just the 6. Like,
yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah.
And
Something that you kind of talked about that I want to touch on that I thought was kind of cool is you said you have to approve all the deck lists before an event. So do you have to check to make sure that they fit within the budget restriction of
That's
a tournament?
yeah, so what they do is they post their link, like they make their deck, and then they post the link, and then we just check it on Moxfield or on Architect, and then they have to submit it like a certain way. So just so that way everybody is submitting the certain way.
Do you guys use Card Kingdom prices on Moxfield?
No,
Or
hell
you
no.
use TC?
No, hell no. No,
I was going to say.
we have them use the TCG. We have them like, set everything to lowest. It includes the price of the commander, and then they get it approved and it's locked in. And as long as they don't change anything, once it's locked in, they're good. Because card prices do fluctuate.
Yeah.
And good deck builders for like a competitive event like this, they will go right up to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Like 27 cents, like they got to submit it and get it approved right away.
Oh, otherwise, that's funny. Have you ever had it? Have you ever had instances where like you've seen a deck and it's like $101 and you're like, sorry, man, can't take this.
Yep, we put an X on there and then they got to resubmit. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Now for the website, I'm not such a stickler. So like if somebody submits a $500, $750 or $1,000 deck to the website, like, if you're plus minus $25, I don't care. Like, It's just got to be ish and need to be a reasonable deck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess this might be a good transition point because you brought it up, and I realize that we don't really have it in our prompts. But why don't you tell us about like the website? Because the website is kind of one of the things that you're best known for,
Okay.
because it's one of the coolest resources in like the entire community. So why don't you kind of talk about it a little bit?
So the BudgetBrews.club is the name of the website. So when you first get to the launch page, you'll see tabs for deck list, resources. There's a thing to submit and FAQ. So on the launch page, it's got a link to our Discord, YouTube channel, Twitch, my Patreon, and a donate link. Go to the FAQ. It's got a couple of like little questions about like why CEDH, why budget, blah blah blah. And then there's the submit. You can submit like to all of the currently supported tier, like budget tiers that we have. Then under resources, I have 6 templates for budget. I have mana base, tutors, interaction, ramp, like stack interaction, permanent interaction, and then so like I have it broken up like the interaction to hate bears, non-hate bears, non-stack interaction, and then the stack interaction. So it's mana base, ramp, dudes, spells, stacks, and tutors. All right. So if you want to know that Rest in Peace exists, it's under stacks. If you want to know delay exists, that French delay we were talking about earlier, that's under spells. And then if you want to talk about Draeneth Magistrate, it's under dudes. You know what I'm saying?
I don't want to know that any of those cards exist, actually. I would prefer to block them out of my memory.
Okay, well,
Facts.
if you want to know that Diabolic the 10 is now $15, it's under Shooters now.
Hey.
Yeah, because it got a reprint.
Yeah, that's pretty hot, actually.
Then on the other side, there's resources to different community resources, like the Commander's Library, which is like a Discord repository that's high power and CD centric. The Decklist database,
Which they won't put our content on the damn Commander library, which is blasphemy. We need a petition to get sad.
They won't?
The Commander. No, I mean, I think that it's just. I think as a resource, it's a little outdated.
it still has a lot of good stuff, but yeah, it's a little under-maintained at this point.
Yeah, but I do like the Commander. Like, you can search for anything on there, and it's usually there. So it's
At least something to get you in the right
It's a good
direction.
resource.
Yeah.
Then we have the combo database, the Commander Spellbook. Then we have a resource for playing on Cockatrice, which is the subreddit Discord. Webcam is the Nexus, the MTG Marketplace, Ken Bauman's website, CH Guides, and then the Tournament Event Hub. And those are all featured.
Yeah, they're all
Then
sick resources.
Yeah, well, nobody had a central resource hub, and I update that like semi regularly. Like, obviously, I'm not like changing things out all the time, but like there used to be some other play discords up here that kind of went defunct, so I took them off. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, like CDH Guide is like probably one of the newest resources out there, and like you've got it up there, so it's like clearly shows that like you guys have some onus.
Well, and I'm a big proponent of cross pollinating. I think that instead of trying to get a bigger piece of the pie, let's just make a bigger pie, and then we don't have to worry about fighting over like table scraps.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I like big pie. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody likes, like, I'm kind of a chunky dude. Like, I like to eat. So let's just have more for everybody instead of kind of siloing each other off.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know what I mean? And then lastly, I have the deck list tab, which has 4 tiers currently. We used to support more, but I've recently, due to lack of engagement, reduced those. I have a $500 tier, a $750 tier, a $1K tier, and then competitive pauper commander. So it's a cPDH is what it is. It's actually kind of a cool like ultra budget format because all the decks are under $100.
We've actually been like reached out. Well, not reached out to, but we've had like some brief discussions with some of your friends that do like competitive pauper
Gator
EDH.
Baits TV. He's getting into it. He's
Clay.
passionate about that. Yeah.
Yeah, Clay. I think Clay is the one that's he's commented on a few of our videos before.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, and so like
I don't know, dude. I can't play Cycle Storm in Pauper EDH, so
because that's what you play as a pauper deck. Come on, man.
yeah.
Does it translate as well?
It's not enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, and there's like, so I like. So the reason why I went with Pauper cEDH versus like $100 budget is that the Pauper, since it's all commons, can be very focused and still be like, it kind of ties back into that like not playing against things that are more than double your budget as a general rule. So like
everybody's on the same like level.
Yeah,
so.
a lot of it is just all about making sure. Because I mean, that's really what Rule Zero is about. Like Rule Zero is not about like it is about everybody having a good experience, but it's making sure that everybody is
on an equal playing field.
Yeah. Like, you know, right, within reason. Like,
yeah, that's like
I'm not. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's why we play cEDH, is because like the rules, and we had a whole episode I think dedicated to like Rule Zero, where we talked about how like the whole idea is that we all have agreed that we're playing at a certain level, and this level is leading to as little disappointment as possible.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that as long as the Rule Zero is consistent, it doesn't matter what power level you're playing at. Like if you're playing cEDH, like that's gonna be fun regardless because you all are on this similar axis.
Right, and everybody has equal accessibility. You know?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't go like it. Like I mean, that's why pub stomping is bad because basically pub stomping is just a failure to adequately communicate Rule Zero to people. You know
That's
what I'm
a
saying?
good way to put it. Pub stomping is just a failure to communicate.
I mean, it really is because
Yeah.
most people who pub stomp aren't like intentionally out to do it. like they just have grossly overly powerful decks and are playing against grossly underpowered decks, and then people get mad about it most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there are some outliers, but like I'm just saying, most people I try to operate with most people have like good intentions at heart most of the time. So
We hope.
You're very trusting of the Discord community
Oh my gosh.
or the local community.
I kind of have to be.
Yeah. No, I hear you. But your website though, I think is like a really cool thing because there, like you kind of alluded to, there isn't another resource like it. There isn't another place where you can go and you can find resources for budget decks, the same deck but built 3 different types of ways for 3 different types of budgets. There's not a place that you can go to and find every useful, in quotation marks, useful resource for the cEDH community outside of the Discord community itself, where you can find websites and information and statistics and stuff like that.
Well, and here's the other thing. That website got launched in 2018.
So it's been around for a while for the greater cEDH community, because like our community isn't like super old. You know what I mean? Like it's still very much in its infant phase. So
that website's like maybe it was 2019 when it came out, but I mean it's at least 2-3 years old. Like, and it has the whole time it's been up has linked multiple resources. It changes kind of as needed. It has supported like other things like over the time, and the idea was to try to get everybody to start doing that with each other, and nobody will.
Yeah, that kind of well, we can get into that actually, because we one of the things that we wanted to talk about was some of the like greater issues in our community that you think that should be, that if the ability was there, that they should be resolved, or things that we can kind of work on or fix as a community. Because for people that aren't as entrenched, because I know that we have a lot of viewers that aren't like super like deep into the cEDH community, but basically like it's very much in its infant phase, but it's existed for a while now, and there's some issues that kind of just don't get resolved because it's always been like that. Or this is just the way it is. And so there's been a lot of, especially this year, I wouldn't even say in recent years, I would say this year specifically, there's been a very big push of like, okay, it's time to change things for the better, because we're getting to the point that we're so popular that like, if we don't change these things, they'll never change. So like with that kind of, I guess, like statement before we get into it, what are some things that you think could use improvement in our community?
I think the first thing that needs to change is that there needs to be more than one DDB. I think the entire backbone of our community is based on one editorial opinion website, and that is a problem. That is, as great as those 4 people are, and as well respected as those 4 people are, it is like the majority of the backbone of what is and what isn't acceptable in this community is based off of their opinions. 4 people. 4. That's how many managers there are. Maybe there's 5, but I think there's 4.
I can fact check, but it's close to that number. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no other resource that is as pushed by the community, as known in the community, and as just like widely utilized in the community. So we have a saying where at my job that the solution to pollution is dilution. So a lot of
that's a pretty good saying. I was gonna say it's like a good Dr. Seuss moment from Timmy there.
Yeah, you like that? And a lot of the problems in our community stem from not from the DDB itself, but from the fact that it is the sole proprietor of broadly accepted what is and what isn't acceptable, and that is based off of 4 people's opinion, as great as those 4 people are. And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that's a really good point. Specifically, when you look at other formats, there are hundreds of those editorial sites. You got like Goldfish, MTG Top 8, NRG has a site. like all these different tournament organizers have their own sites where they post like meta breakdowns, top decks. These are what we think. Results, yeah, things that we think perform. And we don't have that.
And on top of that, all of those sites cross-reference each other. Because MTG Top 8 cross-references SCG Opens as well as other sites. So you don't have any type of data-driven results at all. The only effort that was really done for like data-driven like collecting is ceased to exist now. So now you only have one editorial-based site offering what is and what isn't. And the downstream effect of that is that conversation with the new guy, to get back to the beginning of the podcast or earlier in the podcast, what that does downstream is when you and I, who are burnt out, when we're burnt out, interact with the new guy who's playing that casual deck and wants to make it cEDH or push it as far as it can, we get short, we get terse, and then we say, oh, play Blue Farm Scrub, and then we link them to fucking DBB and move on. Or we dress them down in a voice chat, or just...
what have you, yeah.
Yeah, the horror story du jour, right?
Yeah. Dress down. Yeah, they'll lose all their abilities. And then...
Yeah, and we draw
you drew a card.
And then we sack it at end of turn because we forget about being mean to a new guy, to the newcomer.
Yeah.
Like... And without that diversity of resources, and then also like not only there being diversity of resources, but they're also being like cross-referencing. Like my site was a competitor with the DD, but I linked it. You know why? Because it's a good resource, and it was presenting different data than what I was presenting. You know, Ken's site is pretty good about that. That's one of the reasons why I put him up there so fast, was he was linking us, he was linking the DDB, he was cross-referencing multiple sites.
Yeah.
The DDB doesn't do that. They don't. Their subreddit doesn't do that.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of like I would call it outdatedness, right? Where it's like it kind of comes back to that thing of like this is how it was when it started, so this is just how it is, right? And so like something that I do really like about like Ken's resource, and I don't even feel weird calling it that because it's not Ken's resource, right? It just happens. Yeah, it happens to be a resource that Ken helped create, and it's what I like about cEDH Guide is that it tries to be as data driven as it can be with the limited information that it has, and it does like a good job. Like it uses like, hey, these are the decks that perform the best in events from the knowledge that we have. This is like Ken keeps track of all the tournament winners and stuff like that.
No, he doesn't. I did.
What do you?
That was my data from the Budget Brews site, which is gone now.
The graphs that show like what decks have won.
The decks that had won tournaments, and he links it on his site, came from the cEDH Budget Brews site. Was the data that I was collecting.
Oh, see, I didn't.
That was my data, and it doesn't get pulled anymore.
I see. Huh. Something that I know that's been like is being worked on behind the scenes that I think is going to really help with the conversation that we're having today. Because I know that the Eminence team, specifically Zane and the Eminence team, is working on a new website that's kind of going to mimic MTG Top 8, but for EDH.
I'm excited.
And it's going to be really cool because it's going to use like the tournament data that Command Tower and the Eminence software can provide, because with this new software not being a Discord bot, you actually have all that data and information. You can see every deck, you can see every archetype, you can see how it performs, and you can see the history of how these decks perform across multiple tournaments. And as we are progressing, because like cEDH has been around for a while, but the tournament meta I think is at its right now. Like right now we're at the start of like the tournament meta specifically.
Right.
And so now that that's the case, this data should actually mean something, whereas previously it did. I don't think it meant shit.
Yeah, like the reason why I was collecting finals pods, for example, was because I at least wanted a deck that won 3 games in a tournament. Because a 64-man tournament, you could top 16 by going 1-0-3. You know what I mean? If you got lucky.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then you had to, and if you got into the final, you would have to win your semis. You know, like, so it wasn't very, like, the reason why I geared it to not be very deep was because pretty much outside of the top 4 players of a 32-man event, like, you get some Wile E. Coyote shit real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
No, yeah,
But-
absolutely.
And now that it's getting bigger, I think that'll help.
Yeah,
And-
for sure.
And Ken does do a good job of cross linking. Like that's why I love that stats site. Like he pulls data from, he was pulling data from our site, and then he was also pulling data from Squirrel Mob's metagame project, and then kind of correlating them into one place, which was a great thing. So I believe he still has everything that we had up before I took the page down. So he has everything, like, probably up until the end of the summer, like the end of September, basically.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at the website right now just because like I've been browsing through like the stuff that we've mentioned, and yeah, no, it's very much like a good. It's trying to consolidate as much information as it can where it can. And it does a decent job at that. But I think like we're also limited as a community with like the knowledge that we have and the abilities that we have. And the other thing is that like something that I think is kind of under discussed maybe is that there's no real money in cEDH right now. Like a website like MTG Top 8 can get enough ad revenue and sponsors to like make money and like be worthwhile. And in cEDH, we don't really have a lot of that yet because our community is very niche and very, very small. Right. And so like when you have people working out of pocket and out of the kindness of like their own heart, just because they're motivated. Yeah.
They're less incentivized to complete.
Yeah. There's like so much that we can do. And so much. Right. So like it is difficult because like you're one of those people to me that like you work out of pocket to benefit cEDH in any way that you can. And like I'm assuming it's taxing and not the easiest thing to do, and it eats up a lot of time.
No, like, I spend like at least 30 hours a week doing something cEDH related, budget related.
Yeah, I was gonna say like me and Kean record one video every 2 weeks, and like cEDH kind of consumes our lives, and so like to be someone so dedicated, I can only imagine.
And I have people that help me, like the guy who actually built the website. His name's Crushfield. And he helps me maintain it. I do all the content on it. So, like, I update the list, I remove the list, and that's probably the most labor-intensive part. So, but he actually built, I don't know how to build a website. We wouldn't have a BudgetBrews.club if it wasn't for Crushfield. You know what I mean?
Shout out to Crushfield.
Crushfield.
Yeah, the homie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was is there anything else? Like, I don't want to, because I know that this is like a topic you're passionate about. Is there other stuff in the community that you think needs like to be addressed, or things that like you think like?
Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to finish the sentence and just say like things that you think that are standout types of discussions, because I definitely think that like the data and the sharing of the collaboration between different resources, I think is like a huge important thing that you've mentioned.
I would say so I mean, after you consider the new player experience, you consider the monolithic culture kind of that cEDH is, like with the subreddit and the DDB and all that. Then you kind of start getting into there's a lot of, like, how do I put this? So there's a lot of like people like arguing over the 23rd best piece of ramp in their deck. Like if I'm arguing with you over like if you're arguing with me over like the 23rd rock I'm running, and they're both like kind of comparable, like maybe that's just a little too intense. Like, I don't know. But like, again, the downstream effect of that is that being like imposing what happens in my meta into what happens in your meta, and vice versa. Like time and time again, I'll see people, and I do the same shit. Like, I'm not pretending I'm pure and clean and on it. Like, my jank is fire, your jank is trash. Like, because my jank wins games and your jank looks like garbage. But like, kind of as like a mentality is kind of that statement. Because I can play, like, when I play my fun deck, or, you know, my what are your guys' fun decks? Like, what decks do you play because you like to play them even though they're not that great?
Like CDH wise?
Yeah.
Timna Thrasios Sacred Druid.
Okay, sure. What about you, Q?
Sans Blue Hulk.
Perfect, right? So those two decks, you both personally have play them and consider them not that great, but they get a pass in your book because they're fine, right? So for me, a lot of Thrasios Timna Brews are kind of the same. I play them. I love Earthcraft as like my favorite fucking card ever. Like, and at times I've made it work, but it just really doesn't work now. But I'll still play Scroll Force 1 once in a while, like, for fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm.
But when the online discourse happens, if I was to post Scroll Force 1 as like a deck, it would probably get a pass because of my name, like, because of my personality, not because of the principles of the deck. Whereas, like, if Rando Person X posted it, they'd probably get shredded, because it's, our community a lot of times is driven by personality, not by principles, at least in its current state, unfortunately. And you kind of get this acknowledgement of, I get a pass because it plays well in my meta, but then when I see something equally jarring from somebody else's meta, regardless of what it does there, I kind of, you know, we have a tendency to kind of pounce on it as a community.
True.
And sometimes just learning that, like, this cEDH is a bunch of pockets of isolated metas, and a good player can take whatever deck within reason they want and perform relatively well. Like, take Mikey, for example. Mikey J. Holohan from the Miscast. He played Armix Crom, right? In a bunch of metas and just stomped everybody no matter where he played it, right? He's also, like, one of the best players I know. So we could probably put a box of cereal in his hands and he'd probably beat us with it.
I mean, he's kind of aggressive. I could see Mikey beating me with a box of cereal.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like
Kind of flashbacks to my childhood, you know? So, no. But, I'm very much, I hold that same opinion. I think that, like, a lot of, like, the best results in the format come from the best players, not so much the best decks. And you can see the best player, like one of my good friends, Gustav, I think is like one of the best cEDH players out there. And when he's bringing a deck to a tournament, he picks the night before what deck he's bringing. He doesn't prepare with a deck for months and months and months and try to break it or whatever. He's just like, I'm going to bring Timna Halana Hulk, and I'm going to top 4 this tournament just because I can, you know? And so, like, there's all these, like, I think that there's definitely a skill gap there. And so I would agree with that. And I would also agree with the point that, like, a lot of the community is personality driven. And, it's definitely been that way for a while. And I don't know if it's necessarily, like, always a bad thing, but it can become a bad thing, like, very easily.
Well, when echo chambers get formed, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And that kind of ties back to, like, the solidation of where our resources come from, right? Because, like, but we talked about this, I don't know, maybe like 10 minutes ago, about, like, the DDB is the resource and it comes from, like, 4 or 5 people. Like, like, I'm going back again, but, like, there's no cross collaboration, there's no other views of opinions, so how can you expect other people in these communities to have other opinions from the ones that they're being told?
Yeah.
So,
exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Like in your last episode, you guys were talking about the decks that got removed from the DDB, right?
Yeah.
So, We'll take Mono Blue, for example. The 2 Mono Blue decks that are on the DDB haven't done shit ever.
I gotta
Ever.
check now
True.
which decks they are.
Well, Urza's okay.
No, Urza has not done shit ever. Teferi has. In the last 12 months, Teferi is the only Mono Blue deck
maybe.
to really do something.
we went
I'm not
fucking ham on why fucking Orvar shouldn't be on there still.
Yeah, Orvar's
I'm not
shit.
saying Urvar shouldn't be on there. I'm just saying the deck that got removed versus the deck that's present is based off of opinion, not off of actually what did well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Teferi has technically won a recent event.
And-
For
so-
a Black Lotus.
And that, I mean, trust me, that list was something. It was something.
Yeah.
But it got there.
But still,
it got there.
still, it's performed. Yeah, it's
It got
performed, and
Yeah.
and the decks that are on here haven't performed.
Yeah.
Even though I would say, like, I think universally, the entire CDH community would probably agree that the best mono blue deck is Urza. But that being said, like, Teferi deserves its recognition because it's been there and it's done that.
I guess what I'm getting at is like that opinion versus the fact. And granted, it's one tournament, one time,
Yeah.
but one is better than 0.
Yeah,
This is
I mean,
true.
Urza top forward Punt City, so it's got
Did it?
results.
There you go. Okay, I
Yeah,
stand
so-
corrected. You know what?
Yeah.
And I'm pulling off, and I should have known better because I have a spreadsheet that has what decks top forward. You are correct, but Orvar has not.
Yeah, Orvar is.
Yeah, we don't
get me
talk
started.
about Orvar here. Yeah.
I mean, and again, I'm not saying that that's empirical. I'm just saying, like,
No,
as an
yeah.
example, that is
I don't
kind
think-
of.
I don't think Orvar has. I don't think anybody's even seriously played Orvar in a tournament.
I mean, honestly, they're both. They're all fine decks. Like Teferi's fine, Orvar's fine, Urza's fine. Like, sure, if I was to assess which ones were stronger than other ones based on my play experience with those decks and me playing against them, I would definitely say that Urza is a stronger deck and probably would be placed higher in a meta if we aggregated out enough games and enough people played it.
Would we say maybe the more optimized list?
The
right?
more
Would that be-
optimal thing to play,
yeah.
given what we know. But again, it's not. It's just a guess. It's an opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Which
You
is
know what I'm saying?
which is sort of what the entire foundation of our format is built upon is just
On
opinions.
Very
Yeah.
opinionated people.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with opinions. It's just you need to have diverse opinions. Like,
Yeah.
like not only do we need to have diversity of people and of ideologies, but we also need diversity of like play skill, play style, and all of these things to kind of create the whole, like a holistic, like view of everything.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes stuff better, right? So let's take United States and Britain, for example, as an easy example. They're a, I think they're a monarch, like, so
Constitutional monarchy.
there we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. So they only have like one opinion, I guess, rules them all, right? I know that's not how it basically boils down to, but that's the example I'm going to use. And then the
Okay,
U.S.
all
is
right, we'll roll with it.
democracy. Yeah. So the U.S. is. I'll say, you know what? I'm going to start over. We're going to
Do we
say
want to
no.
stop there?
All right. So one person's opinion, or 4 or 5 people, a select group of people, it only has. Shut up, Adam. Only has
That's called
one
an
like
oligarchy.
what one view, an oligarchy, whatever. Only has one view, and then a democracy has lots of people interacting, collaborating, and that's what helps people to like grow and.
This is such a bad example.
I was gonna
digging.
say something in World War II, but then I was like, eh.
Keep digging.
We're going deeper. Oh, but I get what you're saying.
But
I
you
what
I
get
get
my
where you're
point,
going.
right? I'm
Yeah.
just I'm wording it. Dumb.
Again, the solution to pollution is dilution.
There you
yeah,
go.
There we go. Back to it all comes back.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I think I think we're getting.
Now I'm
to-
gonna get
we're-
flamed in the comments for.
It's okay. You deserve it. sometimes.
Whatever. First off, don't read comments. That's your first problem.
But I'd say that we're getting better as a community because now we're at the point now where we're at the acknowledgement stage, right? We're like we're starting to acknowledge that our opinions are opinions and not facts. which is a big step in the right direction, right?
Some are, some aren't.
Some are, some aren't, but for the most part, like
open-minded
for
individuals.
For the database, for example, we've got like they've made statements. It's on their website now that like, hey, in the about section, like this is our system, this is how it works. These are opinions garnished by this group of people, and yada yada. Like there's an acknowledgement there, right? So that's a step in the right direction.
A step forward, yeah.
Yep. And then then it comes into the realm of, okay, now we need to diversify those opinions and collaborate with other opinions and like actually, work towards all these like the things we've been talking about this episode, right? These resources and things like that to get to that improvement. So we're headed there, but it can be better, right?
I mean, it's already been existent for 3 years, but I'm not going to point that out.
Yeah. So before we end, because we're getting like close to like where we like to end our times, there's one other question that I think me and Kian want to ask you that I think is really important.
Okay.
That question is, what is the impact that you hope that your content, whether it be the website, your YouTube, your articles, the write-ups you do for Reddit, any of these things, what is the impact that you hope that your content will have on the community?
Simple. The short answer is I really just hope that it can help standardize a little bit the onboarding for new players and give people like this, give the established player some amount of tools to help like not have to like always have that 3-hour argument with every new guy that walks in the door, right? And that I can help kind of help ease that onboarding and then like help people make fiscally smart decisions and learn better deck building skills, and do it in a way to where that's kind of approachable. Like, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that as viewers of your content and fans of not only cEDH Budget Brews, but fans of Timmy, something that I acknowledge with your content is that your content is kind of to like what you alluded to. It is the gateway to a greater community.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a way to say like, this is a good starting point, or this is to help you understand what you're getting into.
Right.
And from this point on, it's like you push the birds out of the nest, right? It's like I'm teaching you these resources or helping guide you into cEDH. Right. And I think that it is beneficial to have that type of content in the sphere. And I know that you've cultivated a lot of the online community. You've cultivated a lot of your local community. I know that we're friends with like our channel, or friends with Alana and Dan. And they've told us about all the stuff that you've done in Michigan to create like a healthy local scene and really bring cEDH to the place where it's at now. And so I think that this impact that you hope to have, I think that it definitely shows, because like something that you may not know, although you might know because you're like a statistic man, is that like for content creators, I believe that like outside of like the spike feeders, you have the largest Discord dedicated to a content channel out of any cEDH Discord that exists in the community.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And so like just like by the pure amount of people that you have in your Discord. And so like I think you have even more than Playing with Power and like all these other like huge, like considered like monsters of the format, right? Okay. And it's really cool to see that, because it shows that like there is an impact there, right? Because like even if you're a smaller channel content-wise, your impact is resonating with these players because it shows in the type of engagement that you have in your community, which I think is really cool.
And to be honest, I don't care about that. Like, I don't know if you like. I don't like. I just do it because the job needs to be done, man. Like, I just see the need and I do my best to fill it until somebody better comes along. Like, trust me, the second somebody builds a better website that serves the purpose of what my website does, that bitch is going down. Then I ain't gotta mess with it no more.
Yeah, then you don't have to stress about it.
Right.
You don't have to
like
stress.
the second that I like, like when I left the Nexus, it was left in capable hands.
Yeah,
You know what
that's
I'm
the
saying?
goal, right? Yeah, to
Yeah.
not have to. Yeah, no, and I think that's like a really cool impact to want to have, because it is like for the betterment of the format. It's not like built on personal goals. It's like, hey, I want to show more people this game. I want to make it easier for people to get into the game, and I want it to last so I can continue to play it.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I try to lay a pretty low profile, honestly, as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, considering.
Yeah. So, Kian, I know that it's a little late. Do you want to do the flavor text?
All right, and now moving on to the best segment of this show, flavor text of the week. For those of you that are just tuning in or don't know what the segment is, it's where we try to stump you, the audience, and the guys on the podcast with some challenging flavor text trivia. If you'd like to participate, listen carefully and put your answers in our Discord channel, the Flavor Text Judge, to win a free pack on us. So, let's get started. I'm going to start with you guys first. All right? This is not a cEDH playable card at all.
Is it a
So
magic
good luck.
card at least?
It is a magic card,
Okay.
but it's a budget magic card.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
all right. All right, ready? Hatred outlives the hateful. Hatred outlives the hateful.
Okay.
So you said it's a budget card, as in budget like playable, or this is just a cheap card?
Budget playable.
Budget playable.
Is it really budget playable, or do you just think it's budget playable?
All right, Hopper cEDH playable. There you
Okay,
go.
all right.
Proper
All right. That means it's budget playable. There you go. If it's
So it's a
playable somewhere, it's playable.
Well, that's a hint, though. It means it's a common.
Yeah.
And it's hatred outlives the hateful. Would we like? Is there like an honest? Like, would we be able to? Do we know what this card is or no?
Yes.
Oh, that was not a confident
The
yet.
hatred outlives the hateful. That's the flavor text.
Yep.
It sounds like a mono black card.
Snuff out.
No, that's a good one. That's that's arguably cEDH playable.
It's in Eureka.
Eureka,
Yeah, yeah, it's in Eureka. Yeah,
I mean, it's a deck.
there's a lot of cards in Eureka.
Yeah. I'm stumped.
Is it black, Ian?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
All
Oh,
right.
then it's red.
Nope.
See, this is the game that we play at
Okay.
Timmy's. We just
Was
keep
it? Is
narrowing
it? All right.
down.
Here we go. Here's a good one. Is it modern legal?
I just gotta look it up.
Look it up.
I'm gonna say yes.
And how many reprints does it have?
At
Ooh,
least
this is-
three.
now we're getting into the weeds.
Not modern legal.
Not modern
Not
legal.
modern legal.
How
Not
many
modern
reprints does it have?
12.
12 reprints, and it's not.
What was
modern.
the?
Is a D&D set modern legal?
Depends
Here,
on
let me look
which
it
one it is. Because if it's the original,
It is legal and modern.
If it's AFR 1, it is,
Okay,
Legal
it's
and
legal
modern.
and modern, and it was printed in a D&D set.
and it is 12 printings.
Yep.
Okay. Can you tell me what the oldest printing of it was?
Urza's Legacy.
Okay, so it's an Urza's Legacy. It's a non-black, non-red card. Treachery.
No.
Okay, then I'm out of ideas.
Oh my god.
It is a common.
Oh yeah, okay. Durr.
Oh, okay.
Guessing a rare.
Commons from Urza's Legacy. That's
Common
somewhat
from
playable.
Urza's Legacy. That is the hatred outlives the hateful.
Yep.
And it's white, green, or
Blue.
an artifact, or blue.
Yeah. You got me, dude. I'm stumped.
I'm gonna look it up. This is the
You
concession.
can't cheat like that.
Yeah.
You
What the hell?
You have to admit defeat, and then he tells us. That's how this works, right?
Okay,
I've listened
before
to
I
this
look
before.
it up, what is the card, kid?
Rancor.
Oh,
Rancor.
I should have known that one. God,
I was like, this is super playable in green decks, like green.
it is.
Beatdown, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's his play.
Do you know that
All
if
right.
you Google "hatred outlives the hateful," it's just all Rancor memes?
Really?
Yeah,
Rancor memes. Oh, you
it's
gotta-
just like It's just like different pictures of Rancor.
I love
I
it.
didn't know this.
Oh, I can't
Okay,
believe.
so-
You got me good.
Yeah, that was
Got
a good
him.
one. I
Got
should.
him.
I don't play enough like Pauper to know Rancor, but that's a good one.
I mean,
Good
that's
card,
like
good
the
card.
Timmy card for like that's like the Timmyest Timmy card ever. That's like trample,
Exactly.
and it comes back to your hand,
Yeah, dude.
so you can
What?
trample again.
Yeah.
just keep
The
trampling.
Timmy
Oh, my
card.
gosh.
Yeah, you can start.
That card is so
yeah,
good.
That Dargan can get in there, boy.
Is
Card's
Rancor cEDH playable, Timmy?
I got no clue. You'd have to ask the rules committee about that. I mean, I would probably jam it in a green deck, but it's a one.
Okay.
Like, it's a one drop that gives trample and comes back to my hand. So
Yeah, it keeps letting me trample.
yeah,
All right. The next card for the audience, you guys at home, throwing you curveball because I'm done of all Looter, Scooter, and Scorish getting it within the first hour of us posting this episode. So, I want a banana this big.
Everybody.
I want banana this big. That's the flavor text. Good luck. All right.
that's an uncard if I've ever heard it.
Nope.
Oh no, this card is. You can't say it, Timmy, because because they have to do it at home.
No, that's fine. You can tell me when we. get
Oh yeah,
back.
it's the card. Everybody knows the card. It's so good. But other than that, I think that unless there's anything else you want to touch on, Timmy, right away, we might just wrap this episode up with the closing and talk about what we got going on.
Okay.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah, I think I've gotten you guys enough flame mail as it is.
Awesome. So, before we start the cleanup, Timmy, why don't you remind everybody about what you do, where they can find you, and the type of things that you make?
All right. So I make new player content masquerading as budget CH content. My YouTube channel is called CH Budget Brews. My Discord is CH Budget Brews. I have a website that links both of those things called BudgetBrews.club. Next Saturday on the CH Budget Brews Twitch channel, we will be streaming our first budget CEH webcam tournament called the CBB 100. That is a $100 deck, hard cap, including Commander, on twitch.tv /CH_budget_brews. And yeah.
What about your YouTube? You got your YouTube?
CH Budget
you got
Brew. What about my YouTube? What do I got going on with that?
Yeah. Do you got anything exciting coming up? Do you got?
What's happening?
So I mean, we're transitioning back to the beginner MetaBuster videos. So those are us kind of deck teching for beginners. The basically DDB lists essentially, or versions of them. And we just intersperse it with kind of whenever the inspiration strikes me, we'll do a few budget videos. Maybe we'll brew some stuff once in a while. And then I've also on my Budget Brews gameplay channel it's got a bunch of old CEH games, but I've got 2 $100 games that we just posted, kind of just for the coming up for the tournament and stuff. People wanted to play some practice games.
I love that series that you guys have, the $100 deck text.
Yeah, we'll
Pretty
probably
cool.
transition back to those eventually. We're kind of phasing off of them for a little bit. Kind of, there's only so many that I consider like worth highlighting.
Or playable? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of playable decks, but there's only ones that like the issue kind of becomes is like when I put it up on YouTube, somebody's gonna click the buy button maybe, and I feel like somewhat responsible to make sure that I'm at least being genuine with what I think is a good thing to go with.
Yeah. No, that
So.
makes a lot of sense.
So
Cool. Well, yeah. Make sure that you guys check all that stuff out. We're going to link all of Timmy's socials, where you can find his content, the website. Everything is going to be in the description of this video down below. So make sure that you check that out. And with that, I think we're going to move to the rest of cleanup. So again, we would like to thank all of our high-tier patrons, that being Doot, Usable Object, Senator Tom, Sora Flower, Scorish, Jeff Bezos, Geos Justin, and Domino. Thank you guys so much for the support. The support from our patrons is what makes us here at Sad Naus continue to pump out content. So thank you guys again for everything.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, yeah. Anytime.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
And then for those of you that haven't already joined the Discord, please join the Discord. It's where you can find people like Timmy talking in there all the time, talking about episode discussions, meet with us. We do deck building advice. We talk just about life, Hampter. If you guys are into, Hulk decks, we like talking about Minsk and Boo. Just all different types of content, inside jokes, all these things that you're missing out by not being in the Discord. We also have a channel dedicated to the local Metro Milwaukee area where we cultivate cEDH games, meetups, different LGSs that we run tournaments at, and things like that. So if you'd like to be a part of that, we'd love to have you there. And finally, whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, drop us a review, or share us with your friends. It really helps with growing our channel and gives us the ability to work with new people like Timmy and reach new audiences. And with that, we'll end the episode here. So thank you guys. Have a great week. And we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.